Okay, ready for the clap?
Yes.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Clapped. Clap in those cheeks. I can't.
And welcome to the podcast.
Oh my God, this is how you start the podcast, really? All right, good. Welcome everybody to the Huntology Podcast. I am Vilithos, the ancient summon that exists everywhere and in all realms. Okay, and this is Rhyme. He's a talking croc. I didn't make him up. He's not imaginative. I swear. Yeah. What's up, Rhyme?
We're doing a podcast today. Pretty cool. Pretty hype.
Yeah.
Do we act like we're recording this on a different day, or
we just pretend? Yeah. This is a completely different day. Different year, different time, different timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
It's 2025 right now. Wilds has been released.
Exactly.
And today, as I have been told, we're going to be talking about the mechanical aspects. Now, Jeff, I don't know what that means yet, but we are about to find out.
Listen, my name is not Jeff. But yeah, so in the timeline of 2025, like where we are right now, they have actually shown us, they have invited us over to Capcom and they've shown us everything about the game. So we can completely tell you exactly what's going to happen. Also,
we know jack shit.
Yeah, exactly. Now, what this podcast is all about, the mechanics of Wilds and what we can predict so far. And like, this is probably very speculative, so you shouldn't take that as like to define that this is going to be. All right?
Yeah. I mean, it's going to happen, but you can't believe that it's going to happen. You don't know this, so don't assume it.
Yeah, we are time travelers anyway, so it's, that our believability is very bad because we're time travelers. So what do you think?
Right.
Can we talk about new weapons?
No.
Like, have they shown new weapons in 2025? I'm not sure. What can we say?
No, they haven't.
No, they haven't. There you go. Like I would say just to kick it off with like the most controversial thing is that I want new weapons. I just want new weapons. Just give me one. Just give me just one new weapon.
Is that controversial? Who doesn't want new weapons?
There's a lot of people who don't want new weapons. They're like,
but is there anybody who would like be bothered by a new weapon?
I don't think
you don't have to play it.
Yeah, right. That's also how I think about it. But it's more of like this expectation of them being like, well, whatever. I don't need a new weapon. I only play longsword, so why should I deal with any other weapon? Right? This is probably like just. I'm not here to just shit on longsword players. Okay.
Oh, longsword players are pretty. Yeah, there's something. I say as a former longsword main. I still main longsword, but as former solo longsword main, I should say.
Well, yeah, but that's like the
My
thing.
story is weird.
There's so many people who, players, hunters, whatever you want to call them, that they are so invested in their one weapon that they're like, well, why should I play anything beside my main weapon? So there's no benefit of getting a new weapon. But at the same time, you have the other side of those people, which are like, you have the other kind of mindset of people and players who are like, man, it has been 10 years since we got 2 new weapons. Could we just get something new? Right? And I'm also part of that.
Has it been 10 years?
Like, it depends. Like, we would need to look it up, like, when Monster Hunter 4 released, because that was when we last got new weapons, which were...
It was 2013.
Yeah, there you go. It's been 10 years.
Crazy.
Now, here's the thing. So there's, Frontier, right? You got your... You probably know more about Frontier when it comes to the movesets than me, because I haven't kept track of it like you did, which is impressive, by the way.
I documented the entire game, yes.
Yeah, pretty much. So there's this side of players who are basically screaming at the top of their lungs that they want Taunt Fuzz and Magnet Spike in the main line.
Oh, I have an opinion on this.
Oh, I too. But sure, go ahead.
You want to talk about that right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're talking about Wilds weapons. It's still about Wilds, but this is something that is big, which is people want Taunt Fuzz and Magnet Spike to be in a new Monster Hunter game that is in the main line. So that would be Wilds as the next one.
Yes. I'm an advocate of new weapons. Absolutely. I love new weapons. I want to document them. I want to learn them. I want to play them. And they're going to be fantastic because Capcom made them. Looking at you, Hunting Horn. My thoughts on the frontier weapons are Tonfa could be possible. I could see it. Why not? It could be possible. The Tonfa are pretty anime in Frontier, but everything is pretty anime in Frontier. You could probably tone it down a little, give it some new movesets, overhaul a little bit, and it would work. But I don't see it as a necessity. I don't think it contributes enough as a weapon. Depending on, that's the thing. If they execute it in like a modern way, it could absolutely. So I could see it coming. I don't see why not. Now, Magnet Spike makes absolutely no sense to me. Because Magnet Spike in no universe makes any sense. Not even for Monster Hunter does Magnet Spike make any sense as a weapon. Mm-hmm. It is so anime. It makes absolutely no sense that it even exists. And I just don't see it happening.
Well, I don't know much about Magnet Spike, but I have seen enough footage of it to be absolutely like, if there would be a game where it would have fitted with the amount of ridiculousness, then it would have been Sunbreak. But I don't see that in like the current art direction and what they have shown in the trailers of like Wilds. It just doesn't make any sense. It's like you have like the hunter that can like with the Magnet Spike, as far as I remember, you can put like a weak spot on, or like you can mark the monster with like how it is with the insect glaive, and then you can pull yourselves towards that and do like the most ridiculous shit mid-air that you have ever seen. Like
you can pull yourself towards, you can propel yourself away from the monster. You have a finisher move that locks down the monster,
which is crazy. That is so
which
ridiculous.
Just would not work. Just wouldn't. Today anyway. But
man, I mean, imagine you have a built-in trap that gives you an opening to hit the monster in a weapon. That just can you just fathom how the balancing of that would be ridiculous? Because like, how do you make that? Because like you already have stuns, but stuns is something that most weapons can make use of. There's only some weapons that are really good at that, and there's others who aren't that good at it. So that's like more of a general mechanic that you can play into. But if your weapon pretty much has a built-in like a built-in how's it called? Like shock trap, for example. It's not really a shock trap, right? But if you would have that on a weapon, like obviously everybody would use that weapon because this move is so ridiculously good.
Everybody did use the Magnet Spike.
Yeah,
because it was broken. Magnet Spike was back in the day invented because the monsters were too strong.
Oh, really?
They made a weapon to defeat them. Something along those lines. This may be a wrong story, but that is something that I have read online.
Okay. Well, I can imagine why, because there's a lot of people who are like, you just go for this one. just use Magnet Spike for endgame.
It's a very strong weapon in any case, yeah.
Yeah, I don't really see it happen. I don't even see it happen if you would turn it into an immersive, more realistic weapon of like how World has established that.
It's like, probably going to be something entirely unrelated and new.
Yeah, like Magnet Spike is way too ridiculous and just on a fundamental like weapon design perspective that I don't really see how much they want to tone it down in a way so that it makes sense to work with with what they are trying to do with Wilds. Obviously,
I don't see it either.
Yeah, and like the same goes for like Tonfas. Thing is that a lot of people think that Tonfas are pretty much just dual blades, but you can stun with them. And I also was one of these people. I actually was like, well, like it doesn't look unique enough to be like an actual weapon in like the main line. But I played it a little bit, and I really see why, because it's quite different from what dual blades are. Massively different.
It is very different. It is essentially an aerial weapon, which is crazy. And you have these like finisher moves and all this anime shit you have on those weapons. It's very cool, but that is more realistic to be implemented than a Magnet Spike. I still don't see it happening. I would not be like super surprised if it happened, but I also don't see it happening.
Yeah, I don't really see it happen. Like I think that like, if I would sum up Tonfas just a little bit, all right, people are gonna be mad at me for saying this, but I'll just do it. Which is, it's like dual blades, but imagine dual blades would be as technical as a charge blade or a morph arcs, switch arcs, sorry.
Huh?
Right? Because like you have probably kind of like looks like it's dual blades, but it has the technicalities of like a charge blade, which there's a lot of things that you can go into, a lot of tools that you can make use of. For example, you can adjust the weapon length. You can switch to different modes, which makes this weapon very different from dual blades.
Well, there's one thing to add in Frontier specifically is that they made it so only one of the modes is actually worth it.
Oh, is it? I'm not sure.
It used to be that both modes are viable and you would switch between them, which is really cool. And then they changed something. There was like an update, a patch or something, and they made it that only one of the modes actually does anything for you, and the other one you just lose out, just straight up.
That's terrible.
Right. That is terrible. Well, it sucks, but it is kind of fine because it's a PvE game, so it's whatever. Yeah. But yeah, you could learn from that and make it proper, and I could absolutely see Tonfa being a super fucking fun weapon in Wilds if it comes, which I do not see happening. But I do absolutely see new weapons happening, and I'm kind of on the hopium here. But it just would make sense because it has been so long, and because in World they didn't do it because they overhauled every single weapon. They just didn't have space to add new weapons to a game that has every single weapon overhauled.
Yeah.
And then Rise, we don't talk about Rise, point 1 and point 2. In Rise, you have switch skills, which already overhaul the weapons again. And then Wilds kind of changes the weapons, but it doesn't overhaul them, from what I understood anyway. So I could see new weapons. I would love new weapons.
Yeah. Like I think that I really would like them to put new weapons in there. Because like it's been very, very long. And as somebody who has played Monster Hunter for such a long time now, I'm kind of like I can get into each of the weapons pretty smoothly and understand them really quickly. So I'm craving for that new different weapon that is just, you have never touched this before. You are noob. Okay, you don't know what you're doing. Get better at it. That's what I'm kind of like looking for. But yeah, I think that in Wilds, I mean, what we already know, which is confirmed, is that they are going for monster wounding and something called focus mode. And especially that part of it, which is pretty much they're saying, hey, we will have the weapons, all the 14 iconic weapons that you know from Monster Hunter, but they're going to play different because you can make use of these mechanics that are now fundamentally integrated into their movesets. So for example, in Rise, we had, for example, the fabled how do I call it? Silk bugs, which are very controversial at this point, right? But the silk bugs, they have been added to the weapon moveset, so you can make use of special moves and zip around the map. So they had this purpose to turn you into a ninja, basically. And then now you have the same happen without this, but now in a different way for Wilds. So I personally am looking really forward to what they're going to do with this sort of like new addition to the fundamentals of the weapons, because it is going to I would say that they probably won't redefine the entire weapon, but they will make it so that you now have different options where you can go into to make this weapon useful. That's what I say.
Right. The thing is just, if the only thing that changes is what parts you're attacking, then your weapon gameplay is still gonna be the same. If you have to like specifically focus on a weapon part, some things will change because some of your combos kinda, well, especially for like certain weapons, you have certain ways of directing attacks, right? So like for Sword and Shield, you have the I don't know I don't know move names, but you have this attack where you essentially turn around and slash.
Spinning Reaper. Probably.
No, not that. Not the round.
Oh, the other one. Okay, yeah.
I mean the one where
round
you just
slash.
Turn and stab, essentially.
Oh yeah,
the one that you had in World, I don't think it's in Rise. You turn and stab. In Rise, you have it on the dual blades where you turn and stab. It's just repositioning tool, and those kind of things would heavily impact that mechanic, right? Because if the monster turns or something, you have to adjust your attack in order to keep hitting that one part that you want to hit. I'm guessing you're not supposed to be hitting just like any part. You're still supposed to focus on one. You just have to like decide on which one to focus on. Well, and that could impact some things.
That's going to be the big question, because like Monster Hunter is such a hitbox heavy game. It is so similar to like for example like fighting games, right? Where it's like, okay, you are going to go into aerial, so you can put the hitbox at a different position to hit your enemy, like on screen in a PvP fighting game, right? And like Monster Hunter has that in PvP, but in 3D, which makes it so that aiming your weapon at a certain spot, even for melee, right? So for example, aiming your greatsword to hit the chin of a monster, for example, that is really, really important to do. So if you now have it so that monster parts actually can be wounded, and you are now going for different parts, then it could even mean that, well, how is that going to impact how you play greatsword? Because maybe it means that now with greatsword, it's actually better to go for a specific part to wound it. Maybe this gives you more damage than if you would only go for the head or the tail, which has been pretty much a standard in for greatsword for like the past 15 years.
Yeah. But then my question would be, like, if the easiest part to hit is the leg, what stops me from just going for the leg?
Right, that's a big question.
That's like, a big question.
I think the most important part of that is like, what's the threshold to make a monster part, let's say, a wound? Because that's the thing that they want to do, right? They say like, so you can turn a monster part, you can wound a monster, and then you go into a special mode or something like that, and you can dish out something special that you can't do without a wound.
I actually see a really easy way to fix the issue there, which is that mode you're in runs out, and you can only trigger it again by breaking another part, a different part.
I wonder if it's about part breaking or if it's wounding. Because like wounding does not imply that it's a part break.
Not really, but it might as well be the same thing.
I mean, it could be.
Because from what I've understood, wounding in this game just means you attack a part for a long time, and then it becomes wounded. What we have so far is you attack a part for a long time, and then it becomes broken.
What they have already said is that you can mount a monster like it is like in World without the animations that like lock you in until you can do things. And then you can sort of like, you can weaken a monster's part. But I don't know if that weaken equals to a wound. Because they're very specific about if that is a wound or a weaken. Because a weaken would imply that you wound a certain monster part and then you deal more damage on that. And that could also mean that you now get a wound easier.
It doesn't really matter which one it is. The idea of you do that to a part, then you are able to deal more damage to it, then that runs out, and then you have to do it to a different part, still fixes it, no matter which one it is.
What do you mean by fixing it?
Fixing the issue of why would I not just attack the part that is easiest to hit?
You mean like, so it's like on cooldown, so you don't get the amount of damage that you would normally get? That makes a lot of sense, yeah.
Right? That would fix it.
That would be great. But like,
and then you have to like attack different parts, and you have like a good reason to attack like the entire monster. Then it would still make sense to have like hit zones, so that the leg, even if you apply the whatever it's called to the leg, it will still take less damage than if you applied it to the head, for example. But you can only apply it to the head once, so then you move on to the next spot, and then to the next spot, and you keep moving.
Yeah, it would actually be really interesting because there's one fear that I would have with this though, which is that it would get rid of that age-old thing, which is everybody goes to the head, and me as a hammer main, I'm fucking shaking for my life because if I knock them upwards, they're locked in animation and they will cry about it, right? So because everybody goes to the head, because it's pretty much. Well, yeah, now you can. Back in like Tri-Ultimate, you couldn't. Well, I heard a bunch of that. People would still complain about that in World, by the way, if I would knock them up.
Absolutely.
But what I mean is that everybody would go to the head because it logically is probably of every monster the best hit zone, or go to the tail because if you cut it off, there's less annoyance with that hitbox. So it gets like with the wounding kind of stuff and with these specific, you take care of this part and whatever, you get more damage if you hit this monster part or whatever. Being forced to do that for optimal damage, sure, it gets rid of it, but at the same time, if you have 4 players going for that, I kind of imagine it to be really annoying to keep track of which monster part is currently wounded and which one isn't. Because like imagine this. Imagine you have 3 dual blade players in there, right? And they all go for a different leg on a 4-legged monster. So is it now that all of these is it like that 3 of these legs are now exposed and like wounded, and now if you press the attack, you hit all of them at the same time? Or like even if you only would, let's say, exploit one of them for an attack, will the other ones go on cooldown? Because like you need to think of it like this: every monster part that you wound is something that you need to keep track of, because it might be on cooldown or not. That's something where I'm just
right.
like, it sounds so annoying to keep track of at all times.
Well, the way it makes the most sense to me is if all parts could technically be wounded at the same time, and they have a separate cooldown, right? So they don't interrupt each other. And they're also obviously the same for everybody. So it's not like one player has a wound on there and the other one has a wound on the other one. That makes absolutely no sense. And then the issue would arise that you deal the most damage by attacking the head. So you wound the head, then everybody attacks the head. And then you're like, okay, maybe I shouldn't attack that because the hammer player is trying to apply stun. So I like wound the tail instead. Now we're losing DPS because we have 2 wounds at the same time, but people can only attack 1 wound. So we're losing DPS. And let's face it, most people in Monster Hunter are about DPS, whether we enjoy it or not.
Yeah, that is true.
So that is a whole issue, and that's not something that I'm capable of solving. But there's no point in trying to solve it because we don't know if it's going to be like that or not.
Of course, we don't know. It's a bunch of speculation.
We know nothing.
I think in the long run, it does sound better for just hunting in general, with like just encountering monsters and doing that even with friends or whoever you play with, because now you have like, oh hey, you can tell your friend, hey yo, it's wounded, you can do big damage right now, right? It's like this is an opportunity to make use of it.
Right. There will be a pop-up really cool on screen, absolutely.
Oh god, I hate it. Oh. What I have already heard is that the UI, the HUD especially, is really well done. It is like really just very in line with Monster Hunter World's HUD design, or like UX design, or user experience for people who don't know, which I am absolutely a big fan of. Please keep doing that. Just add more options to make things hideable, especially that stupid ass chat log. I don't want to see that thing. Just, I don't know. Imagine this. Every time you wound a monster part, it's gonna make a pop-up on the screen telling everybody that you wounded the part.
That is what we currently have. We have it in Wounds in World. It tells you I wounded a monster.
Yeah. I hope I can turn that off. That sounds
It is tiny on screen. I don't even notice it, but
yeah, but I know that a lot of people don't really care about that HUD and UI kind of stuff, and there's so much stuff on the screen. But it's also, those are the people who tell me that they have tunnel vision when they play Monster Hunter. It's like they don't see it because they're just so focused on fighting the monster, which is fair. But not me. Okay. Not me.
Well, the optional would be the easiest option, right? We have that in Rise for like most parts of the HUD. Not sure why not all of it.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
Like, we might be in the future right now in 2025, right? Time travelers, but we still don't know that. They haven't showed us any trailer footage, so we can't tell.
Right.
So what I think what is like another topic that might be probably the most interesting to talk about in terms of wounding is that, well, they want to introduce the focus mode, or they are going to introduce the focus mode, which apparently is a mode where if there is a wound that is exposed, you get into the focus mode, and then you can automatically like aim on things and then throw out some very special attacks at these positions at these monster parts that are wounded. So like in the trailer, for example, you had the greatsword, which actually interacted with like one of the big guys with the berry thing that I keep forgetting the name of. Which apparently there was a wounded part on that monster, and so the greatsword would actually run towards it with like that new slinger hook, as they call it, or hook slinger, and then deal some big damage. I wonder how that will work for other weapons. What do you think?
Yeah, there will absolutely be cinematic attacks like this. Pretty sure, and I appreciate that. I love it. This is going back to the like cooldown thingy. Like you do that once to like the leg, and then you can't do it to the leg again. Sounds pretty obvious to me.
I mean, it would be terrible. It would be terrible if there would not be a cooldown, but because then you will have the problem of like silk bugs. Because like silk bugs in the end game are pretty much always there. So the only problem that could happen is that you go and you spam so many silk bugs that you eventually run out of them, but there's no downside to it.
And wire bugs?
Out of it. Wire bugs, yeah. Silk bugs.
Yeah.
Wire bugs. Sorry, wire bugs.
Silk bugs. There's one ability in my god, Rise that makes it so you can have 4, which I never figured out what that is, but I've seen somebody have 4. It was pretty damn crazy.
It's pretty OP because like that's a how's it called? It's from Amatsu. Amatsu has an ability that gives you that over time, I think.
Which Amatsu? That's a joke you're not gonna understand because Amatsu is a top category of dragon, and then Amatsu Magatsuchi is the subcategory. So technically, there could be other Amatsu dragons, and we named the one Amatsu dragon that exists Amatsu. So if there's gonna be another one, we're gonna have a problem.
Oh my god! I mean, I played Portable Third till the end, and the one who did the English fan translation for it called it Amatsukami. So maybe that makes it better. I don't know. Probably not.
I don't know.
Yeah, but like now, with that wounding and focus mode, I mean, like there's lots of people who are really concerned that this new focus mode is like required. It's like you can't turn it off. They've already said that it's going to be optional, so you can't turn that off and just do things manually because that's just how I would like it, to be honest. But the bigger,
depending on how frequent it is, I would not mind.
Well, yeah, right. It depends again on the cooldowns, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Depending on the frequency, absolutely.
It's like the big question is that if you have this focus mode and you have these spots where you can throw like special moves at it, the biggest question is which special moves do the weapons have? Because like at the same time, you got to think like this, and this, but they already said that, which is if there is a wounded part or something like that, or like I don't even know if they said it's going to be if it's going to be wounds or not, but you have certain situations where monsters clash into weapons or weapon attacks, and that triggers sort of like these cinematic moments of like where in the trailer, for example, the greatsword user had the greatsword in the mouth of that monster, right, and repelled it.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Like, I mean, I can imagine, for example, that with the lance, which is unpopular in Monster Hunter, but let me just go for that because it's easier to explain. Like when you guard with the lance and a monster runs into your guard, it can be that you actually make use of a clash and you make an opening for the monster while you are just fine because you have a gigantic shield, right? And you can bounce off of that. But for example, I can't really imagine like how you make use of that with dual blades, for example, or even longsword. Like, wait, what are you gonna do? You're just gonna hold your longsword in front of the monster?
Or like I mean, that would probably work.
I mean, yeah.
But dual blades are a little harder. Yeah, I think there's gonna be like creative ways to create an interaction there that might not even be the same. It might not even be I'm gonna hold the monster in place for every weapon. It might just be something entirely unrelated. Which is part of balancing, obviously, but that's not too much of a concern. I think it's just gonna be cool shit, essentially. I think they're gonna have some really creative stuff that you can do with the weapons.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no way I could guess any of them.
I mean, there are just so many ideas that you could just try out with that. It's like, oh, hey, there's this moment where you're pressuring the monsters in your face and you're trying to contest it, and now you're like, okay, what am I going to do? I mean, there's games that are completely based around that. So it's like, I mean, I can imagine, for example, you know how it's like, there's the players who call the spinning move on the back down with dual blades, they call it the chainsaw, right? I mean, I can imagine that instead of having a clash like the greatsword has with this bear thingy, that the dual blades will just go aerial and just chainsaw over the monster or something like that.
Yeah, something like that, absolutely.
You know what would be the most ridiculous thing? If they have a base movement set for weapons, and you can switch out what you want to do with the move, like when it comes to the clashes. That would be ridiculous. Because then you could say like, okay, I'm playing greatsword, but I don't want to have the guarding thing for the greatsword with a monster while there's a clash. instead I want to have like an aerial movement thing that is like that. There's like a move for a greatsword in Generations Ultimate where you jump into the air with like a big half circle and then you just slash it on top of the monster.
Isn't that in Rise too?
Oh yeah, it is. It is. I don't know how it's called there though.
I don't either. I do not know move names. I can't even tell you what the basic guard, the circle guard for Rise is on Longsword. I keep forgetting the name, even though that's one of the names I should remember.
Are you asking the wrong guy?
I can't remember names, embedded names.
Like, why could
absolutely see fun stuff like this.
Didn't you make the guide for the Longsword?
I made a guide for everything, but I made a video on a longsword guide, but that doesn't mean that I know what the things are called.
Yeah, I know. I'm just.
I suck at that.
I thought, like, well, just poke rhyme a little bit about it.
Mm-hmm.
See how much
advertise for me.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Listen, I'm a good host. Okay, literally sitting here with an imaginative crocodile in one room. Like, what are you expecting me to say?
I keep forgetting that I'm just like a PNG crocodile. And I light up when I talk.
I'll say this, on my screen it looks incredibly funny. It's just awesome. I really like that. It's so good.
That's nice.
Well, yeah, it's like, well, I would say that one thing that I think a lot of people can't really imagine right now, we can't even tell, is like the pace and the flow of combat. Because like that's like the one thing that people cannot get their head around, wrap their head around, which is like, so you look at World, and the frequency of attacks that are being thrown at you, or situations that you have to overcome as a player, are significantly less in comparison to Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak, for example. Right?
Yeah.
So in Sunbreak, people, like when Rise released, people called it the Devil May Cry of Monster Hunter because it's so fast.
So right? It's more of a monster fighting game than a monster hunting game.
Yeah, right. I agree to that. It's like Rise is sort of like the Monster Hunter like combat simulator. Sort of like.
Yeah.
So you have like, now you have these two sides of that spectrum, which is, okay, you have that slow-paced, methodical kind of thing of Monster Hunter World, and then you have the absolute speed, the sound barrier breaking Monster Hunter Rise. And now people are trying to find where Wilds will be within this spectrum.
Absolutely.
Because people don't want it to be as fast as Sunbreak, but there's also people who don't want it to be as slow as, or let's say streamlined as Monster Hunter World. Like, what do you think?
I feel like I know the one person who doesn't want that.
Oh, really?
No, but like, I'm fairly sure that from what we've seen, it looks a lot like it's going to be on the slow end.
Mm-hmm.
May it be faster? Sure, I don't know, but it's absolutely going to be on the slow end.
Actually, I think it's more on, like, I would say if you would have the spectrum, right? On the spectrum, if you have like the 50-50, like the 50 mark, or like the half, it's definitely on the slower side, but I don't think it's like remotely close to, let's say, if I would take World or Monster Hunter Tri as like the slowest ones. Not to offend anybody, okay? But
right.
And then, but I don't think it's like more towards the side of like Sunbreak. I don't think that they want to do that again.
It's gonna be World-ish. From what we've seen, the moves we've seen so far and the combat we've seen, it looks very World-ish.
Kinda. I don't know, man. It's just
it might be World a little faster, but I don't know. We'll see.
I think the pacing is probably going to be a little bit faster. Like, I would actually say it's going to be significantly faster than World. Like, as far as I see it, because like, you now think about like how smooth, like, in the trailer the greatsword just interacted with the monster, just from like a fundamental like play for
right.
combat, and then you see on like what special moves you can do, and it's like how much things are happening at the same time.
But those attacks also take speed out of the combat because you don't really do anything in them.
Yeah, I mean, now that you bring it up, you know what? I have one concern about the combat, which is it's too cinematic and it's too automated. Because like, if I'm playing Monster Hunter, I want to be the guy who is in charge of every single move that I do. So if I fuck up, this is my fault. And I don't want to sit there pressing X and I watch a 30-second cutscene of my hunter killing the monster. I don't want to see that. Like, even for a special move.
Yeah. Do you remember the scene in Geismar Gorm where where you don't get the ballistas for the last phase, and then the girl, whatever her name is, jumps up and like in a cutscene like knocks him down, and you're like,
oh
okay,
yeah,
why am I here?
That's badass. It is.
It is a very cool scene, but also it's like, I don't know, it could have been me, could have made me like do something, but I guess it's a little harder to do than just make it a cutscene.
I mean, it would be badass if you as a player could pull something off like that, but it's not a cutscene that is pre-done. That I can see happen. But at the same time, imagine you're going to do that as a player, but it's like a 30-second, you're locked into the animation, and you can just leave the screen and just go and get some coffee.
Yeah, that would suck. I could imagine they put in like quick time event kind of things in there, and you could fail it. That would make it a little better, but even then, it's not great.
Oh man, I hope they don't make quick time events with this. I guess it would be
quick time events would be better than just sitting there and waiting.
Well, that is true, but that's like quick time events are like, from my perspective,
riding is already a quick time event.
Well, it kind of is. That's
just
true.
Spamming buttons. You're just spamming the attack button. It's the same, like if you're in the lock and you just spam like the attack button really quickly to win. That's the same idea.
Yeah, true. I don't know. Like, I'm probably thinking about like the wrong games when it comes to quick time events. But yeah. Because like I'm thinking about like these story games that like super like graphical pleasing and have a story, and you're like, oh, this guy is slipping on a banana. Quick, press X, or else he's gonna slip and fall. And you're like, okay, well, he fell. Nothing changed, right? It's just there to keep you on the screen.
For this situation, it would be more like, imagine you're like in the Great Sword lock, and you like have to press, probably just spam buttons in order for it to work, and otherwise you just get eaten. Well, not necessarily, but you know what I mean. And the other idea would be that you have to press like certain buttons in an order. That would be more quick time event-ish, and that would probably suck.
Oh, you mean like, so there's basically a condition, for example, for the clashes, so you can actually win in that. Oh yeah, I would like that. Like sort of like a mini game.
So you would have to press like certain buttons in order. So it's like X, circle, and then square, and it's like, it could be random, it could not be random, that kind of stuff. Not sure if I would like that, honestly.
I mean, the thing is, like, Monster Hunter does this in a way, it has done in the past in a way that it doesn't even is like annoying, which is, for example, when you so there's the ice or dirt debuff or whatever that thing is called. It's basically you become a snowman, like a big ball.
I think it's called snowman.
Yeah. Okay. So you have the snowman debuff, and you just become a big round snowy ball. So what you do, you just smash the buttons and you just roll out of it, like however quick you want to do that, and it doesn't feel like you are really forced to do that, but it just feels like, oh yeah, I just want to mash out of that so I can get out of it to make sure that I time that correctly so I don't die from it. I think if they would do it something like, in a way like that, I would completely be fine with it.
So I thought that the snowman effect was not affected by you pressing buttons. I may be wrong.
As far as I don't know. Okay, I don't know now you throwing everything that I know in my brain just out there right now. Because like I thought that you can just, if you have the snowman debuff, you can actually you can circle with your analog stick to get faster out of it, to mash faster out of it. And you can also sprint and like walk in a circle to make
sounds very much placebo.
I don't know. Like it sounds placebo, but if you don't do it, it takes longer to get out of it. Else you need to get hit to get rid of it, or you eat.
I can't find the effect anywhere. This doesn't seem to be documented.
I mean, I don't know, dude. We would need to test it out.
I looked this up at some point because it's interesting.
But I don't think I can test it right now. It takes a lot of time to make that happen.
Oh, that is snowman.
Well, but yeah, there are a bunch of things that you can do in the game. Like, actually, let's take something that is actually like visually there. For example, do you know Nebelsnorf?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so if you make it happen that Nebelsnorf eats a bomb, you can fish it out of the sand. That's a mini game, and it doesn't feel like it's remotely annoying or anything. It's really just like, oh hey, here's this little thingy, this interaction. Do this little mini game so you can fish it out of it and get an open.
You can fish Gobble too.
Oh yeah, you can.
But that's just button mashing too. That's not like you don't have to like pay attention. Just mash the button at the correct time, which is less annoying. That's why I'm saying I don't want to be like, okay, press triangle, circle, square in that order. Otherwise, it fails. That would suck. I
don't really see that happen.
Yeah. Also, from what I can read, Snowman does not have a cure except for thawing agent and cleanser or being attacked.
Okay, interesting. I don't know.
It's just what I'm reading.
We need to test that. I mean, there's countless cases where you would need to go out of your way and test if this is the case or not. But
yeah.
Yeah, but man, like I really just, man, I'm really just hyped for seeing what the weapons will in the end actually do. Because like with like having something like the wounding and the clashes, you already can do so much with that. I really just hope that fundamentally the weapons will actually have something that really makes you want to pick the weapons up. Because like there's so many cases of weapons, like especially in Sunbreak, for example. And I think I can say this as the guy who made a heavy bowgun guide, where I'm really angry in the video, right? Which is like heavy bowgun, for example. There are a bunch of moves that are really flashy and cool, but those are like, there's so much. How to put this? There's like the special ones that you pull off, which look cool, that like maybe drag somebody in. But how many of those cool moves do the weapons actually have? Because like people, for example, know that hunting horn, which I know you ignore its existence, but a lot of people got into hunting horn because you could break dance with it, which is the most stupid thing that this pulls people in. But yeah,
it is stupid. It is very Monster Hunter though. Monster Hunter has never taken itself too seriously, which is also a positive trait of the game.
That's actually something that people are concerned about. That Wilds is taking it too seriously with the immersion and stuff.
Well, I don't think so. I think they're doing that specifically for the trailers and stuff, the same way that they have done it in World, when the World trailer released. It was very serious too.
What do you mean serious?
There was only serious stuff in the trailers. There was nothing like funny, no fun interactions, no nothing. It was just cool. It just looked good. It was cool. People were excited for it. The fun stuff comes in when you're actually playing the game.
Yeah, I mean, I guess people really wanted to see some goofy stuff happen in there.
Like, I don't think it's the goofiness is ever going to disappear. It's so much in the heart of Monster Hunter.
It is, right? I have no doubt that we're going to have some weird, wonky, funny stuff in there.
Yes.
So, by the way, they've already said that the cooking, or they've already showed apparently, like in the hidden stuff that they don't want to make public, is that you actually can at the camps that you build yourself in Wilds, you can actually cook by yourself, and that the cooking animations are incredible.
I've heard of the food porn, yes.
Yeah, like apparently there's now like a new way of pulling players in, which is have big titty anime women that are just hot, then have incredibly good looking food, and have some cute pets in there that you just want to pet. Like there's like the holy trilogy.
That about sums it up, yes. And I feel like every single Monster Hunter game has that, except all the games that didn't have a Palico yet. Wasn't that like before Freedom Unite, I think? Or before Freedom 2? No, Freedom Unite had Palicos, right? The first one?
Well, I think you still had Palicos, but you couldn't bring them on hunts. Like they existed as like NPCs that you can interact with.
Okay, that I don't know of, yeah. Maybe.
I'm not sure right now. I would need to go and check. But yeah. Like that's I absolutely understand how people feel about that. But at the same time, they have shown a bunch of wonky stuff in the trailers. It's just that it's in there for like a split second so that people barely notice it. I don't know if you have seen it, but the current funny little guy that people just like to bring up in terms of the Wild trailers is a baby Pookie that flies around there.
Which is not a baby Pookie.
Maybe it's not a baby Pookie. I'm not saying it is, but that's what people call it.
Probably isn't. But yes, this is what draws people in, and this is the most important part of Monster Hunter as well, and they're embracing it, and that's great. Goku, Son Goku, very good. Most people are not going to understand what the fuck I'm talking about, and that's fine.
I don't understand it.
It's the Frontier Duck, Goku.
Oh, that one, yeah. I would love to see that come back.
Would it be fitting there? Yeah, there's a quickly checked. Felines have been in Monster Hunter since Monster Hunter 1.
Oh, there you go.
Palicos do not have a page, so I don't know.
Here's a fun fact that they've actually, that's what the producers said while they did the 20th anniversary and talked a little bit about every Monster Hunter game that they made. Which is, in the beginning, when they started to design Monster Hunter just as a game, which is a franchise itself, right? They were like more into the fantasy like thingy, and they kind of discontinued that. And they were like, well, they kind of want to have these little buddies that help the hunter. They actually, in the beginning, apparently, I hope I get this right, is that they thought about putting in goblins, and they actually designed the goblins or something like that, something goblin-like, and they looked absolutely horrible. They looked super terrible. I don't even know how. I would need to go and find it so I can send it to you because it's so ridiculous. But they were like, no, let's not do that. And then they eventually designed the Palicos, which I think is probably a way better approach. Because I can't imagine Monster Hunter without Palicos at this point. Straight up.
I mean, I could. I don't like Palicos.
Oh,
I don't like Palicos because they're like badly designed or anything. I hate them because they're badly executed. But to be fair,
in terms of gameplay,
Palicos, each iteration of Palico is better than Chacha and Kayamba.
I mean, you're an expert on that with your challenge. So
the issue with Chacha and Kayamba, I don't want to go too much into that, is that they do the same thing that Palicos do, just they have a lot less options, and they also do everything slower. So instead of being like, and you got your heal, it's like, dance number 1, pause, dance number 2, pause, dance number 3,
oh my God.
Pause, dance number 4, pause, then it comes in. It's so infuriating. I'm sitting there like 20 seconds waiting. Is this the heal dance? Do I heal myself? Are you gonna heal? How are we gonna do this?
Oh my God.
It sucks.
So
and then you have like this illusion of choice with the dances. You get 3 dances in the entire game, and there's one combination that gives you health up L. So it's the obvious one that you're gonna go for. It also gives you attack and defense buffs. There's no reason to take anything else. This is not great.
Yeah, they're just a gambling machine on the side that look really funny. That's it. That's all they do. I mean, that's a big
cool, I suppose.
I mean, I guess it's something that you probably will be most concerned about because Palicos can talk now.
Oh, Jesus Christ, no. Why does everything need to talk?
Don't you know that?
Nobody wanted this.
Dude, there's like here's the thing. So let's sum up why everybody hates the handler in Monster Hunter World. And it is because they made it that the one character that you engage in with most actually talks. Because like here's the thing, the guild maidens in the past, they have been equally annoying. Equally. If I read out loud what they are saying to me in the game, in the Monster Hunter games, I am equally annoyed as I am with the handler. The only difference is that I didn't have to listen to them talk.
It's not even not listening. I wasn't even reading out of it. I just click through it. I don't give a shit. And I still do that today. I don't read dialogue. Fuck dialogue. The dialogue isn't even good. I'm missing nothing. And
it's there.
Yeah, the other thing is that the like guild maidens, they're only there when you accept a quest. The handler is fucking everywhere, self-inserting herself into any situation where I'm doing something. And she's like, "Oh, we're doing it, part. No, we're fucking not. And call me that again. I'm cutting your tongue off."
Yeah, it's like the worst thing. Like you bring it. It's like what is this? Bring your handler to your hunt today. What is this? No.
It sucks. She should have never left the fucking camp.
Now imagine you have a Palico fighting with you, and constantly in battle it's going to say something stupid. How do you feel
don't they already? It's just it's just not in voice. It's a text.
It's not in voice.
But they do trash talk all the time. And if I hear that trash talk, if I hear the fucking terrible puns during the quest, I am muting the game. I don't care. I'm muting game, playing my own music. I don't give a shit.
I mean, I think it's funny. I think that the goofiness is really just, I like the goofiness, but there's some things that are just annoying that I don't know if I like them to have it at all times on like.
I don't mind the Palicos like having the like little text boxes on the side where they're like saying like cute little cat puns. That is fine because you can ignore.
I don't think they should even have like their like log in there. Don't spam my chat log, okay? With your stupid little meows.
Well, back when they did that, there wasn't a chat log.
Fair.
There was only the Palicos talking.
That is true.
And then in World, you suddenly have a chat log and the Palicos also talking on top of it. It is so annoying when I tell the pelican to do something, and it's just like kind of standing there, idle animation. I tell the pelican to do something, it does the jumping animation, then goes, I'm busy actually, and it doesn't do anything. Or even worse, when it says, "Yep, I got you, I'm gonna do something," and then it stands there and does nothing. God, I hate pelicans.
I mean, let's go and actually step into the let's step into buddies. That's how they're called in Sunbreak right now, right?
Okay.
And in World also. So the buddies are the Palicos, the Palamutes, your mom in a very tiny way is like a goblin, and she fights with you. Just to be funny right now.
What the fuck?
I'm sorry.
What are you saying?
I'm just trolling, dude. It's fine. Okay. So what I mean is that so you have these buddies that help you out in the hunt, and over within the 6th generation of Monster Hunter, they have pulled that off, that fighting with you in a different kind of way. And I wonder how they're going to do that and how they're going to make that work with what they have already shown in Monster Hunter Wilds trailer footage. Because can you imagine this? Like, what if a Palico can also wound a monster? And what if a Palico can clash with a monster? Because I think they would just be eaten up. It doesn't make sense that they could.
I would, and also I just don't see it happening.
Like, yeah, of course. I don't see it happen. I'm just like thinking of like what they could potentially do with it and how ridiculous things could.
I don't think they're gonna do that much with a Palico, because you have the mount that's gonna be the focus of the game. The same way they did in Rise, where the Palico had like very little changes.
Yeah,
because we have a Palamute, right? You even get when you start the game, your default number 1 is your Palamute. You're not even supposed to use your Palico in online until you figure out that the Palico is actually a lot better.
I mean, I think the big question is more like what are the possibilities of like the Palico in Wilds? Because the Palico so far, and I say this, the Palico has been really streamlined and very like, let's say, do this thing, that's what it does in World. Yeah. Because like you can pick like one option, like what it really does with the tools, and you can give it a weapon to like maybe inflict the status, and that's it. And like attacking is not really optimal, but sometimes it might be hit the monster.
In World, did they even have? No, they didn't. Obviously, they didn't have like the selection of skills that you could give them, and that came back in Rise. And I must say, I prefer that a lot over the system in World, because actively having to use the Palico is so annoying. I just want to fight. I don't want to tell my Palico to do shit and then it not listening to me. I don't like this.
I think this is not a good idea. Like if you manually have to tell your Palico to do specific things, it's an annoyance that it just adds more buttons that you have to press and more tedium.
I like the ones where you had like the selection of, you can have this many skills on your Palico, you choose the skills that you want to have, you can customize it a little bit here and there. That was fun. The classic
I love that. I think that is great. Like you have the system from Generations Ultimate, which is the most deep fucking thing. Whatever they did there, it's ridiculous. Which I don't really like it. I guess it works, but I much prefer the system that is more streamlined, but it gives you options like it is in Monster Hunter Rise, because that one is great. But at the same time, I also am like thinking, well, the Palicos are really useful with the tools that they have. But how the hell are they going to make that work in Wilds? Because if there's so many things happening, Jesus Christ, like how precise that AI of a Palico must be is insane.
Because like, Palicos are not supposed to be intelligent. They're more of an A.
Right? I remember the days where you would just be happy about if your Palico would put a bomb right at the monster and would ignite it right there. And it would just explode there, instead of running into you or into the void of existence.
I'm happy if my Palico doesn't literally bomb me, which has happened so many times.
Dude, in the old games, that was so annoying because that probably will kill you.
Oh yeah, it does like real damage back then.
Yeah. Like it
today,
wasn't like
in no armor, when fighting Geismagom, since you don't really have an opportunity to just kind of place your bombs, I just flung myself upwards and bombed him out of the air. And I just hit myself every single time, because that way I'm invincible to whatever he's doing.
What the hell? That works?
Yeah, it works. It doesn't deal damage to you. Like very little damage. Wow. Minimal damage.
So you basically use the bombs to give you iframes.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Because you're invincible when you get hit, right?
Yeah. I mean, I really see that the Pellicos in Wilds will have probably the most ridiculous tools so far. Because like with like the amount of
potentially,
like the potential stuff that they could do with like the structure and the geometry of like the areas that we have seen so far is already ridiculous.
I could still see it not being much different at all, honestly.
Well, yeah.
I hope not, but I could see it.
I think people are happy with it if your Pellico is not in the way and it just does things that you want it to do, gives you new loot.
That would be a first.
Yeah.
If it is not in the way and it does the things you want it to do, that
would be great, right? So I heard you love Palamutes. Is that true?
I love them because they're very convenient. And that's why I'm using it, even to this date. I could be using 2 Pellicos and it would be more efficient, but it's just so convenient to just ride around and stuff. I hate the fact that they have the turn radius of a 16-wheeler and the fact that they glitch a lot with the environment. I can very consistently show you the Palamute just trying to jump up a ledge and just glitching down every time.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's very consistent. I hate the fact that if you get rawed on a Palamute, there's a good chance you just get hit, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Or you fall over off the Palamute.
You don't fall over. What do you mean?
But if the roar is strong enough, the roar will actually like push you down from the Palamute and put you on the ground. Or I'm seeing things.
I think you're seeing things.
Okay, maybe
unless it's like the roar that has a hitbox, like the a hitbox, a hurt box. No, it's also not correct.
Oh yeah, that could be it. Yeah,
damage dealing, like Tigrex hitbox. Yeah. I could see that happening. But aside from that, you kind of just do the like ducking animation on the Palamute, and you're stuck. But the Palamute startup is so slow that you can't do anything. If you get off, you're standing there for like a full second and you get hit. If you try running, the Palamute startup animation is so slow that you get hit. A lot of times you get hit if you get rawed on the Palamute. So I'm very cautious when playing no armor and riding the Palamute because of that.
Yeah.
And then the other issues I have with the Palamute is that a lot of times when the Palamute is doing something and you're calling it, it ignores you.
It doesn't
just
operate
entirely
the way you want to.
And then if you die and you respawn and you call your Palamute, it will 100% of the time ignore your call.
Yeah, that's
just hard coded. I don't know why.
Yeah.
When you spawn the first time, when you spawn into the quest and you call the Palamute, it immediately comes towards you. If you respawn, does not work. And there's also this thing that if you're using the D-pad to call the Palamute, it is always more consistent and better than if you're using the item wheel. And that is already more consistent and better than using the circle. And I don't know why.
It's really weird how they did that.
It is really stupid.
I'm bringing the Palamutes up because we now have the Sacred, which is the mount, like lizardy thingy guy mount that we have.
How do you pronounce it?
I don't know. It's
wondering.
Seikret. I don't know. Like there's gonna be different pronunciations. Like this is just how it is. It's the same thing. Like people call Tigrex, or T-Rex, or a Tigrex.
Prachudios.
Yeah, exactly. Brachydios.
That kind of stuff. I hated the fact that they call it Brachydios. It makes sense, but I hated it.
Okay, let me just get back on topic, which is let's talk about the Sacred, because they have shown us that mount thing that you have is a really important part of the game, because the traversal in an open world map, like the open map of that game, will be really important.
The fact it flies too helps a lot with that.
So you will mount your Sacred a lot of times, and what I have heard so far, which is what the community managers have said, is that apparently it's not sort of like a combat thing so you use it in combat to make like some crazy moves or anything, which I doubt. There's gonna be somebody who's gonna exploit that, and it's gonna be me. But apparently it's sort of like, you should think of it like more of a tool that you can use while you are hunting. So for example, there is like that one moment in one of the trailers where the hunter is like pinned down and can't do anything, but they're calling for the sacred, and the sacred appears kind of like below them somehow and slips them out of that sticky situation, if we want to call it like that.
Which is close to the Palamute, by the way. The Palamute is the same thing. It just lets you wait for another full minute before it does it.
Yeah. Like Palamute is basically like, yeah, sorry, I'm late. The bus driver just asked for my ticket, so I couldn't just go on it.
It's just sitting there in a corner somewhere at like 70% healing. And I was bro, you don't need to heal right now. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Oh, man. But yeah, the same as Palamute. Palamute was not supposed to be like used in combat. You could, like it can attack. It's not good at that, but you could use it to attack. And it has some uses in combat, but 90% of the time the Palamute is supposed to be like a tool to traverse the area. And in like an open world map, that's even more important. And then you get the ability to glide, which is going to save you so much time. It's also going to be so just fun to play around. I think it's going to be a great addition to the video game.
I really hope that they don't make that gliding with the sacred and the climbing with the sacred like something that is just, like really just annoying. It takes a lot of time. And I hope that it sort of like feels almost like if you would play a platformer that is well put together. Because like it's just easy to say, okay, if you walk over this collision box, it's going to trigger this animation, and then you just watch your hunter jump up there, and then you are at the top. I would really like to see
kind of like the little gazes in Elden Ring, where you just get launched up immediately.
I don't know. I haven't played it.
Well, you get launched up immediately.
Okay, well,
I don't. I don't think so. I think it's going to be slower. I think you're going to have the slow movement option, and it's going to be fine because you're only using it when you're out of combat, which is kind of traversing the map. And in that case, it is totally fine. It is like climbing in water. Climbing in water is slow as fuck. And then sometimes you have these the whatever they're called, the hook beetles that you hook onto, wedge beetles. Sometimes you have those, and it saves you a lot of time. Then in some areas you have like 20 meters of just climbing a vine, and there's no hook beetle. Wedge beetle, and you're like, why? And that is annoying. And I feel like we're gonna have more of these interactions where you can have these kind of skips that make the thing just easier and a bit more pleasurable to play the game, right? More convenient. But you're also gonna have just like gliding along the fucking plane if you want to do that. You just climb up somewhere and then glide across to wherever you want to go, and that's gonna be a viable option. I feel like it is in other open world games, such as Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. And which nobody complained about the glider there.
Yeah, I mean, gliders are just awesome because, like, here's the cool thing with a glider, which is you can put the player's camera up in a way so that you can view much more than as if you would be on ground level. That's so cool and I think that especially in Wilds is going to be really fucking awesome because with the weather changes and the dynamicness of the entire map and how, like, we have seen like the trailers, so the color palettes and how different they can be, and like this stupidly like hidden gray, right? And that super saturated everything is revealed. That makes it so I'm thinking about like, oh my god, there's gonna be so many moments in this game where you're just gonna jump over a ledge with your sacred, and you glide over the map, and you just look into the distance and see whatever the hell there is. And like with the distance that we can look at things now, that also means that we can see the monsters in the distance actually doing things. And that's really cool. Like,
view distance is going to be very important in that game.
Oh, yeah. That's like the big concern for people right now, which is the performance.
Being able to run the game.
Yeah, that's a big one. It's like, man, please just make it smooth, okay?
I'm just happy if it works.
Yeah, same.
Like, World didn't work when it came out on PC. It just didn't work.
I mean, what I can say is that apparently, so there's like, there have been a bunch of content creators that are like journalists too, which have been able to take a look at a demo like that is hidden. They're not showing that in public or anything. And everybody who has seen that demo so far has reported on it is just taken aback on that. They don't want to show that publicly right now, which is crazy to me because apparently it's butter smooth, despite there still being like some wonky little things, but they have to.
I've heard of some frame stutters and frame drops here and there.
Oh yeah, I mean,
which is still perfectly fine. The game is not like finished. It's crazy that there's even like a playable version that exists somewhere out there.
Yeah, right. It's cool. They're gonna show it on Gamescom. Like people can play it, so we are gonna be able to look at it. Or like I don't know if we're gonna see actual gameplay footage of it, or if that's more like a hey, there's people who can visit that, but you cannot report on it. That could also be the case.
But, I mean, people would report on it no matter what.
They will. There's no way. It's Monster Hunter. Come on, man. This is it's such a big game at this point.
Yeah. It's a massive World is a massive franchise. Rise is not.
It's
no offense to Rise, but that is what it is.
I mean, there's a reason why where people like it so much. So give it some time. People are gonna. It's their first Monster Hunter. They gotta get through their first generation of Monster Hunter to understand. So eventually, they will pick up the other Monster Hunter titles too.
I don't think so. There's one philosophy I have that is if you start with an old school Monster Hunter and you get to World, you're gonna love World. If you start with World, you get to an old school, you're not gonna like the old school games.
You're not gonna go back. I don't want to go back to the older games. I don't.
I do.
I really don't.
I have these phases. That's the thing. I had these phases with like World and Rise too. For a long time, I was like, Rise is just so much better. And I didn't want to play World. Then for a long time, I was like, oh no, actually World is so much better. I want to play World instead now. And then I was like, oh, I want to play both. Both are great. And then I was like, oh, I want to play 3U. 3U is great. And then I didn't feel like playing 3U. And then recently, I've been really feeling like playing 3U, but not World or Rise. It really switches for me. Because all the games are different and all of them are amazing.
They
in my opinion.
Absolutely. The greatest thing about it is that they are so unique in each of them, what they want to do and how they are balanced, that it doesn't feel like, okay, now that you play the game, I don't have this thing, so I'm terrible. No, the game is balanced around what a weapon, for example, offers. But like, I want to go back to like the integration of combat of like the sacred actually, because there is unsacred combat that you can do. They have shown that.
I don't think there's going to be a lot. Like, I think for range is a little more obvious because you're going to be able to shoot all your things. Probably, maybe.
There's probably a big downside to that, though.
Probably. There's a chance that you can't actually shoot your ammo. It's just you're shooting like generic, normal 1 ammo.
Mm-hmm.
There is also melee combat, obviously, and I don't think that's going to be too fleshed out either. Nor do I think that even if it was, would it be viable or too much fun to use.
Well, I mean, I think I already annoyed you with this, which is that, like, you can do aerial attacks. You can jump off of your sacred and then do an aerial attack. So I wonder how that will play into what you can really do with this. Because like
that is a thing you can do in World and Rise too.
Yeah, you can. So I wonder how that will later be in Wilds actually. Because like with the sacred on like how it is being shown in terms of mobility and flexibility of like how it moves around and how it's coded, I really just wonder what you can utilize it for. Because if it's just a tool that is defensive to get you out of a situation, and then you just switch to an option for like, let's say you switch to, you have a light bowgun and you shoot while you're far, then I wonder like how efficient it really is to use that. Because, for example, let's say you do play, let's say you have the bowgun, which they have shown in the trailer. So you go on your sacred and then you shoot at the monster. How is it better to not be on the sacred than be on the sacred and have the mobility and shoot on things?
Yeah. Again, I just believe it's going to be like a lot less DPS. And I feel like if you want to do anything productive, you're going to be in there fighting. And I also think if I'm going to do no armor, which by the way, a little advertisement, I will be doing a blind no armor as soon as the game releases.
You're on crack for that, dude. This is crazy. I don't know how you want to do that, but I'm going to look forward to it. I'm
so hyped for this. I hope it works for this game, but it should be fun.
I will enjoy listening to how much you suffer through it.
I don't think I'm gonna suffer. It's a modern Monster Hunter game. It's not gonna be difficult.
Yeah, you won't. It's
especially because it's not gonna be a G rank, master rank yet, right? Because that's gonna be DLC. So I'm just gonna be like high and low rank in like 2 weeks, and then play the game again regularly afterwards. That's what my plan is anyway. We'll see.
Well, I will be fully busy just researching weapons and making guides, and I'm gonna lose my mind over it. It's terrible. I don't even know which weapon I should pick now. Because like right now I'm really into Greatsword.
Fuck it, play all of them. I'm a fan of playing all of them.
I mean, I'm too, but if I want to make a guide, I gotta learn this stuff. It's gonna take a while to figure out.
Well, you gotta lab it, right? But you don't have to play it necessarily.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm gonna be labbing weapons too. Like, I'm gonna be obviously doing no armor on stream. Whenever I don't feel like doing no armor anymore, I'm gonna go offline and just lab weapons and mechanics. That's my plan.
I will say this, like I planned Huntology to be not only a podcast, I planned Huntology to be also a stream where the audience can contribute knowledge to me about weapons so I can learn them faster, so I can make guides faster. So I don't have to spend weeks just figuring out one weapon. Which would result in more videos. So
we could stream Huntology too.
Oh yeah, I mean I thought about we talked about that. So we can do it. But I thought like, well, maybe for the first thing, let's just
that's the second thing, actually.
That's the second thing.
But yeah, we can absolutely do that on stream in the future. That would be totally fine.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That way, I actually get something from it too, because I can stream it. As well.
Yeah,
I don't even have to cut it.
Interruptions you get. Come on, man. I think the question is like, where do we stream it? That we gotta figure that out at some point. Should we just like it? Because like we could stream it on both platforms.
Yeah, we would stream it on both, probably. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
That makes the most sense to me. Just add the other person in the title.
Well, okay. So, I mean, if on Sacred Combat is not really an option, then maybe being able to switch between different weapon types is. And they have said this.
Yeah, that's
we know that from the community.
It is on the monsterhunter page too.
Yeah, so like apparently there is this is what the community manager said. I don't know which one it was. I don't know them, but as far as I understood them correctly, they hinted that there might be some specific gear that allows you to switch between weapon types. Which sounds really weird, but at the same time, it sounds kind of. It really makes me curious. They're good at that.
What does gear mean in this context?
That's the big question, right? It could mean anything. It could be that you have a new. Let's say you have a new belt slot that says that you can equip different belts that allow you to bring two weapons or only one weapon or something like that. It could also mean that you have an armor set with a specific skill that allows you to bring a different weapon, or an armor set that says, hey, with this armor set, you will always bring a light bowgun. Which would be weird, to be honest.
So it is confirmed that the weapon switch originates from the right.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
That is on the monsterhunter.com page. It's specifically for the description for this sacred, the sacred. It says that you can use it to switch your weapon. Well, it has a stash for another weapon, is what it says.
Mm-hmm.
I can't find it right now because I'm stupid.
That's all right. I mean, it's all right to be stupid.
Oh, there it is. You can also use your slinger, blah blah, allowing you to completely restore your health. Blah, blah, blah. It can also stash an extra weapon in its weapon sling, allowing you to switch between two weapons of your choice while out on hunts.
So this is pretty much what people predicted when we saw the first teaser. On like the game show.
It was pretty obvious, but yeah.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
The thing is that people haven't really thought through what that means. Because me being able to switch to like a bowgun, why the fuck would I do that? What would ever prompt me to switch weapon mid-fight? There has to be a good reason for me to switch weapon.
That's a big wonder. Because like here's the thing. Like when it comes to options, being able to do that means that build variety is at an all-time peak. Because like you're not designing sets anymore that are just for one weapon. You can. But you could also make armor sets that actually give both of your weapon types like something that makes them worth it. Right?
I have heard that apparently the armors are going to be somewhat designed around being able to use two weapons. I don't know what that means yet, though.
That's a weird thing, right? Because like we don't know how they're going to structure like abilities within armors, right? Because like we could assume that if it's a system from generation 5, which is world in Rise, then it's like, okay, you got a bunch of points, and for each point you're gonna get an ability. So you can just slot that in, and you get a bunch of shit for that.
You get way more than the old games too.
Yeah, true. But the question is more like, well, how does that benefit you if you switch to the other weapon? And if that system doesn't exist as it is in the 5th generation, how the hell does it look like? Because you can't imagine that. But
yeah, so I have a theory for this.
All right, I'm listening.
I want you to hear me out here because I think it is fairly obvious if you think about it. So you know how there's some skills in the games, most notably in Rise, but there's I think there's one in World. Those skills have 2 effects, but you can only ever use one of them.
Oh.
Right? So you have razor sharp and then spare shot on the same skill.
Oh, so there's more. So you mean that there's more skills that are pretty much just for universally for all weapon types. So get something out of that. It would make a lot of sense.
Absolutely see that happening. I expect that to happen. I don't think it's going to be the main thing. I still think they're going to do something with the armors that an armor set has one set of skills for ranged and one set for not ranged. It's going to be one set for one weapon type, one set for another. I don't fucking know. If you, I don't even know if you're supposed to bring a ranged weapon necessarily, or if they're gonna play around the fact that that you have a good reason to use range sometimes, and sometimes you just want to go close combat. I don't know what prevents me from just using sword and shield and greatsword. Is that a bad idea? Can you not do it at all? I don't know.
That's gonna be really interesting because with now having it so that mix sets are pretty much the way to go, to optimize things. That is. It's making mix sets is probably gonna be really, really stupid.
Depends on how it's done, right? Because we might be wrong about all of this, and it might just look the exact same.
Yeah,
or each armor set has one different skill set depending on what weapon you use. I think that
would be crazy.
I think it makes the most sense to have these kind of shared skills thingies. And then maybe it would even make sense to have armors that have a separate skill set for ranged or melee, even though that would not really be necessary if you're already doing the split skills. But I don't know.
You know what would make a lot of sense is that in the previous titles, especially in the old ones, you would have a blade master set and you would have a ranged a gunner set or whatever it was called. I don't remember what the term was. But they always had this there's a difference between this is a ranged set and this is a close combat, a melee set. So what I can imagine is that maybe they take that from the old games and they're well, let's just merge that into one. But there's a state where if you play a melee weapon, you get this stuff. If you play a ranged weapon, you will get this stuff. So you will have an entire armor set, but it just adjusts to what you are pretty much picking up on the fly.
Could be, but then that wouldn't help you if you're playing 2 melee weapons. Let's say I'm playing Insect Glaive, for example, because I want to use that mobility, and I'm also playing I don't fucking know, Hammer for the stun. Then I'm not benefiting from bringing a Hammer armor that has no benefit to my Insect Glaive. How would you balance this? How would you work around that? I have no ideas for this.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
It is.
I wonder if that means that we were probably it does sound like that weapons will have more they're more evolved around that you put abilities into weapons instead, because they already are doing that in the 5th generation. But I could see that they make even more use of that in the next title. Because you could just say that, hey, instead of having Slugger 3 or Slugger whatever it is, Slugger 3? Yeah, Slugger 3. You have Slugger 3, instead of putting that into your armor, instead you put it into your weapon. And then it's that's just how you make use of that for the weapon. So when you switch to a weapon, you will always have the benefit of Slugger on Hammer, while if you switch to Insect Glaive, you don't need that because you didn't slot it in there. That I kind of can see.
But even if it is the switch, the split skills thing, it would be so hard to make an armor for 2 weapons.
It is.
It's not going to be a problem. Not going to be varying anybody.
It's not going to vary anybody. Yeah. There's going to be some speedrunners. They figure that out day one. Let's be honest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Some people will just sit there and lab for 24 hours and then be like, oh yeah, this is how it works. And that's totally fine.
Probably. You brought up the idea of, you brought up that hypothetical scenario of like, what do you gain from playing Insect Glaive and bringing also a hammer and then switching between the two? And the most ridiculous part about that for me as somebody who wants to make guides about Monster Hunter Wilds, especially because I just like that already so much, is that I now have to go out of my way and explain to people in what situations you can utilize a hammer should you switch to it. So like imagine this, you're in a fight against a monster and you're playing right now Insect Glaive. And now there's a situation where like, okay, this certain situation happens. So you're like, okay, let's get onto the Sacred to switch to hammer and then jump off of it to make use of the area attack of hammer, for example. Like that, I really imagine really, really crazy to talk about. And like, this is like the amount of depth that is being added to the game itself, to Monster Hunter itself is crazy because you can switch between different weapons then. Because you can call your Sacred mid-fight and switch mid-fight as far as I have understood that. Like if you can, that wouldn't make a lot of sense that you have it in like the slinger, like the extra weapon. So like it's like, but do you kind of see what I mean?
Yeah, this is way too complicated for me. Like this is. Oh, that would be in depth. I would not want to do like guides or shit on that. I do want to do like some videos on how the game works, but if that is how it works, I might not.
You know the biggest problem about Sunbreak guides is that the possibilities of each of the weapons are they're so insane that I cannot cover all of them. Like there's a scope of time that I need to fill with footage.
But due to the nature of that, I feel like it's totally fine in like Sunbreak to just say, this is how the the base weapon works without the switch skills, and here's your switch skill options. Do whatever the fuck you want with them. Here's some fun things you can do that are notable, and the rest you figure out.
Yeah, I mean that's the only way to do it. Much how I do them.
Yeah, and that's a good way to do it, in my humble opinion.
I mean, yeah, I agree. That's the way how I do it, and I totally agree with that. Like, obviously, it's just that seeing like what cases there are, like how you can express yourself in terms of like your play style is fucking ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Like you can go full weeb mode, okay? You can bring longsword and dual blades, and you just switch on the fly when you go onto your Sacred.
Yeah.
Like how crazy is that? It's nuts.
It is.
Man.
I just don't see a reason to do it yet. And that's what I'm excited for, being given a good reason to switch between two weapons. More than just, I could have like a sleep greatsword, then switch to my damage greatsword. That's fucking whack. Or like, I can switch to a ranged weapon. Oh, that's fucking whack. Unless you give me like a good reason. Like if there's like, I don't know, if there's a reason to be unranged for some reason, right? If there's like something between you and the monster, and the only thing you can do is switch to your ranged weapon. Sure, that sounds fun. If I'm just switching to hammer to get like a knockout, then I switch back. Why would I do that? Why not just use the hammer? I don't see a reason to switch right now. And I can't think of one. They probably thought of reasons. I imagine they have like really fun gameplay aspects that really give you a good reason to switch. But I can't think of any.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to imagine because they haven't shown anything. That's really hard to do. I mean, I don't know. I mean, this is really just speculation from my side now, but it could be that weapons may only cause wounds at certain locations. So you want to switch over to put a wound on a different spot on the monster. That could be something. But at the same time, I feel like if they're forcing you to switch weapons, there's going to be people who will be absolutely furious about that, because that's going to bring back the clutch claw situation.
Yeah, there's also people who just literally only want to play one weapon, and that has to be viable too.
Yeah.
Like a good reason to switch doesn't mean you have to switch.
Mm-hmm.
Like there needs to be a reason where I'd be like, oh yeah, I want to switch here, but I don't have to. And that's hard to do. I wouldn't even know what that would entail, but they can figure that out. I'm not designing that game.
We're not here to design Monster Hunter for them.
No.
That's what they are doing.
It's too late for that. They're already done.
It's too late. Oh, goddamn.
I imagine they're just trying to make the game work now. That's like the last step. Please work.
Oh my god, we need a reason for rhyme, so he's happy with like switching to other weapons.
Yes.
But you know what? You want would be ridiculous if they would reintroduce Melinks and they could actually steal your weapon, and you would need to go to the other side of the map to collect your weapon. No, come on.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
Aren't like Melinks already in like Rise? Aren't they in there? Am I wrong?
Melinks, well, they are in there, but I mean like the stealing thingy that they actually go out of their way to actually steal your weapon. That would be ridiculous.
They're in Rise. It's good to know. Weapon stealing would be crazy, because what stops them from stealing your second weapon? What does stop them from stealing your second weapon?
Nothing really.
They're weak to every element, by the way, except for Dragon.
I mean, that's how they balance that. You know, so they can steal your weapon and walk away with it and store it forever until you go and get it. And the good side is that you can kill them with everything. Okay, no, obviously this is not. Let's not do that. I don't want this. I'm just saying it would be funny if you had like just the image of a Melinks carrying your weapon away from you while you don't notice it would be funny. But gameplay wise, it would be terrible. It just sounds so annoying to deal with.
How? What? I just read here that it takes a Melinks general presence for around 15 to 20 seconds to steal your item. It does not even need to hit you. I've never heard that before.
What? So it just needs to be
that doesn't sound
area,
right.
Or what? That doesn't make any sense.
In most games, a Melinks will target a hunter as soon as it gets in its radius, wait for 4 or 5 seconds, then charge at the hunter to steal items. It takes being in a Melinks general presence for around 15 to 20 seconds to tempt them to attack. Never mind. Okay, to tempt them to attack. That makes a lot more sense.
Oh, okay. I mean, let's talk about something that is more active in terms of gameplay and how it is incorporated into movesets. Which is, drum roll, please, the Slinger! Yay!
Oh god,
don't you love the
Slinger? Want to open the Slinger can right now? Have you looked at the time?
Well, I'm just saying, yeah, I would.
We can talk about Slinger for a very long time, yeah.
I would say let's talk about the Hook Slinger, the one that is specific to wilds. Because like if we talk about if Clutch Claw or Slinger in World is good or bad, we're never going to.
No, I was saying specifically in the wilds theory of the new Slinger. I think I have a lot to say to that.
Oh really? Go ahead.
I may be wrong, but. Well, so from what we've seen in the trailer, you have a combination of the regular Slinger from World. So again, we could be talking about how that plays into it.
Yeah.
And then you also have the ability to grab things essentially from a distance, which is what I have been saying for ages. Why can't I just pick up the ammo on the ground using my Clutch Claw? Why not?
Yeah.
And now you can. Ridiculous. And apparently it also has a lot more range. The claw than it does in World?
It really has. It's really, you can look into the trailer and you will see that there's significantly more range.
Yeah, apparently, like in the demo, from what I've seen people talk about and read about, write about, it seems to be significantly more even than in the trailer, which is pretty crazy. And then you also apparently got interactions. Well, actually, no, that was the Slinger, never mind. You could shoot things down with the Slinger, so it looks like the Slinger is just going to be literally the same. Or like, it will have the same parts and then maybe more, obviously, but it will have at least, at bare minimum, the same that you have in World. Excluding Slinger Burst, we don't know if that comes back. But Slinger Burst is broken.
I mean, yeah, that is true. Slinger Burst is broken. I just wonder if they really want to bring that back.
I don't know.
Maybe they bring it back, but they probably won't bring it back as OP as it is in.
I don't think we're gonna wall bang monsters anymore.
Oh, really? I think we will, actually.
I don't think so. I don't think it's like a bad mechanic. I just don't think it's the mechanic to stay. Because Capcom has always been very, how do I say this, selective about which mechanics they keep or not. The fact that monster riding was the only one to be kept in like every monster in the game until 4 speaks for itself.
Mm-hmm. And
then nothing beyond that stayed either. Like the styles didn't stay, for example. Nothing stays in Monster Hunter. And the fact that the Slinger stays is big enough. That we have the Slinger still is big enough.
Well, I would say that like when you bring up styles, I mean, I understand what you mean. You mean like the styles from Generations Ultimate, right?
Yeah.
But I think that they pretty much have looked at that and they were like, well, why should we lock players in if they always go for the best style option anyways? And everything feels like a lot of the play styles hunter styles feel like a downgrade, right? And instead they made the switch skills for Sunbreak, which is just, in my opinion, it's the best way that they could have, let's say, evolved the hunter style kind of idea.
Yeah, I get that, but
if it's really the hunter style thing, I don't really know.
Styles and switch skills are still massively different mechanics.
That is true,
and I wouldn't say they're based on each other. That's like saying the wyvern riding in Rise is based on monster mounting. It's just not. They're similar ideas, but they're not connected.
Well, I personally think that is pretty much a continuation of the hunter styles, but it's not the hunter styles, obviously.
So what I'm saying is the hunter styles didn't stay because the mechanic wasn't. It wasn't a mechanic to be kept throughout several games. It is like the gimmick mechanic of that game, and I think that like wall banging and clutch claw in the way that it was executed in World were the gimmick mechanic for Iceborne specifically. The thing is that the gimmick mechanic for World was a regular slinger, and that is staying, and that is rare. A gimmick mechanic staying is super rare.
That is true. Like that's actually, I can't disagree with that.
So I don't think that clutch claw effect or the wall bang will come back because it's just it's just too much. I don't think it would stay in every game, so I don't think it will stay in this game.
I'll put my hands into the fire and I'll say that wall bangs are going to come back, but the amount of times, how many times you can do that and the conditions to make that happen are going to be significantly harder. Because I can't see that they're going to put the same wall banging in there with like making the monster mad after seeing like how the meta has become only agitator on max and making monsters mad. Like I don't see that happen. They're not dumb. They play their own game.
The meta is actually not even wall banging them. The meta is just you turn them until they get mad.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah, that's
so you
at
don't
least
even
from the speedrun I talked to. That's what I learned.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because when you wall bang them, you lose the time.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. So you only
and also you can't always wall bang, obviously. But yeah,
so you only do like one claw, and it's like, all right, done. You jump off and you wait until it's mad.
Well, it's not one claw; it is 3 claws, I think.
Oh,
6. Okay. Well, you claw them until they're fucking angry. You might triple claw and then launch them. Actually, I don't know. It doesn't matter.
It's all right. But yeah,
the point is, I could absolutely see like being like any mechanic that launches a monster into a wall. I could see that, but the mechanic of you like slingshot a monster and it wall bangs and you can just do that a couple of times during a quest. I don't see that happen.
That is so stupid. It doesn't even make sense in like their immersiveness of that. Like how is that making the monster move forward? It's, if anything, if you are hanging on the monster's head and you poke in its eye, it's just gonna topple into a different direction. It's gonna scream at you. It's not gonna run into a wall.
It did scream eventually, just delayed.
Yeah, it just that's how you intentionally can trigger roars now. Have fun with it. It would be insane.
There were some cool mechanics around the wall bang and stuff, because you could like take a different monster and wall bang it into a monster that is already enraged, that you get more contact damage and stuff. There's some cool stuff about that, and from what we know about Capcom is they put a lot of love into the Monster Hunter series, especially into World and especially into Wild. So whatever they do with the slinger and whatever they do with the claw that is attached to it, it is going to have really deep and fun interactions that we could not even think of properly.
Yeah, it's probably going to take.
And I'm going to love them. That's the thing. I have loved every mechanic of those, except for the wyvern riding in Rise, just because it is so abusable.
It's ridiculous.
It's so safe, and it is very ridiculous, obviously. But the thing is, it was very fun in the beginning. You're like, oh, I can ride a monster. It's so cool. It can run around on the Rathalos. It's really cool. And then you do that a couple times, and then you're like, okay, but why would I get off to fight a monster? Why would I just not take a monster and be safe and deal like massive damage?
What I really hope is an interaction that we could do with sort of like not the wall bangs, but like launching a monster into a direction, would be if you can launch a monster into a direction, and for example with a lance or something, you can actually just clash with that. So you can make a monster launch into the player into a hunter's direction, and the hunter is like, all right, I got you. And then you block the monster and you give them an opening for the others to play.
Yeah, Lance being able to like actually block attacks for other people would be the next step for Lance to make it interesting too.
Yeah, absolutely. They have enough buttons left. Let me tell you that. They have enough buttons left that are completely useless that they can use for stuff like that. And if they don't, I'm going to be disappointed. Absolutely.
I think that the regular guard has to stay. It has to.
Why?
Because casual players will sit there and guard. That's why.
That is true.
And there's still a casual game.
Hopefully they're gonna make use of. Hopefully they're gonna find a way to tell the players that, hey, this is how we kind of like want to show you the weapon, how you can play it, but there's different options to that. Because a lot of times people put down weapons before they've even figured out anything, because they can pick it up and immediately get something cool, you know. Because Lance has a bunch of cool moves, but they're not really. Yeah,
Lance is harder. But I feel like if you're playing an interesting weapon, like let's say you try out Charge Blade, and you don't have any fucking idea how it works, you're still gonna find a button that does something cool. It's not gonna be the really cool button. It's not gonna be the big explosion that you're gonna find later. But you're gonna find like the charge, the sword charge, double slash, that kind of stuff, and then you'll be like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then you find like the roundabout slash, and we go, oh, that's a pretty cool weapon. And you just play that weapon for a while. You don't know what the fuck you're doing. At some point, you're unleashing that big explosion, and you're like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah,
and exactly. This is the fun part of experiencing a new weapon. Part of why I want new weapons, because imagine like learning an entirely new weapon. It's going to be so fun. Yeah, Monster Hunter weapons are really well designed because you can just pick them up and hit a thing and have a great time, and you can study them and really get into how it works and really properly learn it and have an insane time.
Yeah, that's just so great. Like, especially because I make guides, I can really see like how deep some of the weapons go. And like just covering like how deep the rabbit hole goes that's the interesting part, because it's almost like a puzzle for me to solve, to tell you, hey, this shit is awesome. Try that out.
But I wanna reiterate on this again. It is so important that a new player can absolutely just pick up a weapon and hit a thing and have a great time.
Yeah.
Because a new player will not like go and learn the fucking Charge Blade for like 3 hours in the training mode before playing the video game.
Yeah, you shouldn't have the need to read like a 75 pages PDF just so you can pick up a weapon and play it. That's ridiculous. I think that's stupid. It's the same as like with Hunting Horn on people that they're like, oh, Hunting Horn was so great back then. Well, it was terrible to pick up and play because it didn't make any sense. Wait, what the hell? Like, why do we need to learn like 8 or like 6 different songs and how to combo those before you can pick up the weapon and hit things? What?
Because there's different per weapon because you don't know which notes you actually have.
Yeah, like back in the day, people would write a little note to remember which songs they would play. That's actually a thing.
Like a physical.
That's what some people would do. But what I really hope is that with like that hook slinger that we will get, that we will also have that moment of like, you just use that hook slinger in some ways or another and eventually figure out something, and you're like, how the hell did I make this happen? Like, how right?
That's gonna happen
that is
a lot.
So cool. Like, we already had that with the slinger kind of in World, which I keep doing that because it's actually really satisfying. Which is, if you have slinger ammo in your let's say slinger bomb, because that's one of my favorite ones, obviously, because it's an explosion. So if you have that in there and you get pinned down by an Anjanath, for example, or any other monster, you just pull out that slinger and just shoot that slinger bomb into its face, and it just gets flinched from the explosion and sometimes even knocks over because I play hammer. And that is so cool that you can do that. But I think that I'm really waiting for them to make sure that this is streamlined properly and it's not just, oh, you're in a cinematic scene and now here's a mini game that you can play through. I hope that they make more use of that.
Right. I could absolutely. This is one thing I'm so hyped about, and I really hope it comes into play, is that weapons have different like combos and interactions using the slinger and the claw. That was the most fun shit when I labbed the weapons, is figuring out what the weapon can do with the slinger, and most importantly, what the weapon can do with the clutch claw in World. Mm-hmm. That was so fucking fun. And if they do more of that, if they don't do like, oh, like you get like one move, yay, but instead you get like 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 moves that you can do and like combo into other shit and stuff. That could be so fun.
So, have you heard of the thing in video games, which is that
no,
a grappling hook makes everything better and more fun?
Yes.
How would you feel about knowing that the slinger hook or the hook slinger is actually like a grappling hook, and you can pull yourselves upwards?
I wanted to be able to like clutch claw onto like an area that you can regularly climb and like pull myself towards it.
Yeah, but like in a manual way, right? So you aim it and then you go there to that spot, and then you can combo off of that. Because like in World, you can't really do that. But I think it's so funny because people at this point, especially the World players, they really despise that. A lot of them, not all of them, but like a lot of them really despise that silk bug thingy, the wire bug. Yeah, they can pull themselves like around and whatever. And I kind of see why,
it is
because they do
much.
feel it is really ridiculous. But I think that with the hook slinger, it could be kind of cool because it's kind of the same, but it's in a different way. Is that what if you can hook yourself onto a monster part, but not in the way as it is in World, but instead it's like you throw that hook on a monster part and it just pulls you upward into an aerial. And then you can do aerial attacks that are your options of the weapon.
That would be pretty neat.
That's
essentially what we can already do with the wedge beetles, just you don't need the beetles for that anymore.
Yeah, you just use the environment. Like, obviously, here the environment is a big thing that they focus on.
Oh yeah.
So I can see it totally happen that you can use the slinger hook to hook yourself on like a rock at the top or something, and like use that to throw yourself over a monster or something like that. That I can really say. Jesus,
absolutely.
The options just for that is just ridiculous. Like you as a now I can't open that conversation. I said I'm not gonna do it. I was about to bring up slinger again. It's like clutch claw. I mean, sorry. Like okay, let me ask like this: you as a slinger expert, okay? What
sure,
are you more looking forward to that slinger, or is it more like, oh please just don't fuck it up?
I don't have that feeling, the please don't fuck it up. I don't have that about anything except for the hordes. The hordes, I'm really like, please don't fuck it up. Everything else, I totally trust Capcom. They know what they're fucking doing.
You mean like that the hordes are really, that's such a new thing? You have no idea
I have no idea, and I feel like neither does Capcom. I feel like the hordes are like a big experiment they're trying, which they like doing. And big experiments can go wrong. And with like the slinger, they know what they're doing. And they will add new stuff, but it will be good because they know what they're doing. The hordes, well, they tried hordes once and it was dog shit. Does it mean they learn from it? Yes. Does it mean it's going to be great? I will see. I'm a little concerned, but Slinger, I'm super hyped for. Slinger is going to be great. It's going to be phenomenal. It's going to have like no negative aspects at all. People are going to cry about it, but that's fine.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They're still like in this mindset of like, oh no, they're gonna bring Clutch Claw back, right? That's like their only concern. But
it's not gonna be not a single mechanic from the old Clutch Claw, including wounding, including turning, including clutching to a monster, including running them into a wall. None of them will come back in any way close to how they were in World. Not even remotely.
That's a statement. Let's see if that actually is true.
You can hold me on this.
I have heard that they are. This is what I got from that stream that I mentioned. Is they said that monster part weakening is coming back, but at the same time, I also don't know if maybe they mixed up weaken and wounding. It's like again, like this is a conversation of like, is weakening a part and wounding a part something different? Because you know how Monster Hunter is in terms of like terminology. It's like, well, they call the same thing 2 different or 3 different words, but it still does the exact same thing.
And then, then there's things where it's like, you have like tenderizer, the skill, and then tenderizing is a different thing.
Yeah.
And then a monster part can be tenderized, or you can also apply tenderizer. It is a different thing. It is stupid. But no, I don't see like the ability to like weaken, like wound a monster, right? That we talked about, where you get the special mode and you blah, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Is different from the Clutch Claw in the sense that Clutch Claw, you clutch to a part, then you do an attack, and then it's wounded. And that is not going to come back. That is this forceful method of, oh, I have to do this now. It's not going to come back. Instead, you just attack the part, and that does something. And that is a different mechanic. Yeah. And in that way, I'm saying these mechanics don't come back.
Yeah, that, like, for example, just to make that clear, like that you hang on a monster part and now you watch an animation of your greatsword like pumping into the monster's tail or something to weaken it, that will not come back. But and instead, also, they probably have something like you just hit it and it triggers that effect of weakening.
I think it's like a 30% bonus or something involved. That bonus of damage will not come back either, because we instead have this new mode that you talked about, which instead will replace it. Which is also immediately a lot more interesting than just, I deal more damage, so I have to apply this thing. No, instead you have like a new mechanic that happens when you apply weakening, tenderizing, wounding, whatever you want to call it.
Well, yeah. Instead of having to basically keep up the debuff on the monster on all parts at all times, instead it's just like, you have this condition, but now you have to commit to this to get, let's say, the 30% extra that you would normally get with that weakening. Can you follow?
Yeah. The main issue was that people cried about they have to tenderize because you need the 30% damage, otherwise you're not dealing any damage, which is incorrect. You can play the entire game without Clutch Claw. I did it because I didn't know it existed. I beat the entire game, including Elatreon and Vertalis, without Clutch Claw and without Slinger Burst because I didn't know they existed. What are you even crying about to begin with? And but yeah, this kind of problem will not come back because the mechanic is so much different, is what I believe and predict.
I pretty much agree with you on that. Like these concerns about that, Clutch Claw is going to come back and weakening is going to be a major thing and you have to do it. I think that they have learned now in the 5th generation, they've gotten enough feedback. And especially like with the fundamentals are of like wilds, I also don't really see that they are going to do that again. It would be insanely dumb of them to actually do it like that.
It would.
I would literally be like, "Oh yeah, guys, we heard you. We hear you, gamers. Let's do the same mistake again." That would be crazy. So I think that is a good point because like we're done. We have talked a lot about the mechanical possibilities and stuff like that, but I think that most stuff is still so speculative. We would need to actually see like the flow of combat and such. So we could actually like say that, you can do this with a greatsword or something like that, right?
There'll probably be more stuff revealed sooner or later that we can talk about as well in terms of mechanics.
Well, until then, it's gonna be a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
But actually, it's not that long. It's not that long until Gamescom is.
I don't know when that is.
I think it's in August, or at the beginning of August, or at the end of June. I'm not sure right now. It doesn't matter. It's pretty.
Might be on my birthday. Yeah. We'll find out.
Oh no.
Imagine like a Wilds update drops on my birthday, bro. That'll be the greatest stream of all time. I'll react to that live for the first time in my life.
Oh God. I was thinking about doing live reactions, but I'm like, I feel like everybody does that. I'm not interesting enough so people care about my live reaction.
He says doing a podcast.
Okay, you know what? You win. You got it. You got me right there. It's man. All right. So, do you have any topic, or should we just wrap it up for now?
I think it's fine to wrap it up. We're getting close to midnight, and I gotta make food at some point.
Food is not real. It can't hurt you. Food.
Why did you specify food a second time?
Oh, it's a meme, but it's okay. You don't need to understand it.
No, I don't understand memes. You know, I live under a rock. You should know this.
I mean, I guess crocs do.
Yes, crocodiles live under rocks. That's how it works. That's where the rock and crocodile comes from.
So crocs live under rocks, and where do summons live? Do I live in the shadow realm? So like, is that my equivalent to living under a rock? Okay, guys, this podcast is over. All right, what I want to say is thanks for watching. Check out Rhyme. Check out my channel and have fun with the spam that is going to be the Huntology Podcast from now on. Pog. So peace out, and let us know in like the comments and whatever what you think, what your thoughts are, especially what your concerns are. Those are always totally relevant. No sarcasm. or ironic.
That sounded so sarcastic. That was totally relevant.
I totally care about your concerns, dude. Well,
I absolutely read all of your comments.
Yeah,
definitely.
Guys, take care. What are your final words?
Pineapple.